China remains the primary source of fentanyl, a drug that kills more than 100 people a day in the United States of America. The Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, says China remains the primary global source of fentanyl to the world. Two techniques are used to deliver the drug to the US. It is either shipped to the US directly via international mail or shipped via Mexico in some cases. Chinese sellers label these deadly drug shipments with Spanish language, advertising to help clear customs. US lawmakers say that the crime syndicates in China operate with that knowledge of the Communist Party. You know, I get sick and tired of these people who may be on Twitter or X and on YouTube who are like the spokespeople for the Chinese Communist Party and would say China is Shangri-La, it's heaven, it's the perfect place. And they deny all the knowledge, even though the evidence is right there in their face. They would go on YouTube, they would do their research. I'm sure they know they're just doing it for the Chinese Communist Party. When there is so much evidence, video evidence of these ships that come from China, go to Mexico with their legitimate load, but they are smuggling the precursor of fentanyl, for example. The ships get to a certain port, but before they get to the port, they would dump the precursor over the side where the smaller boats would come up, take them to the cooking plants in the Mexican jungle, for example, and make the fentanyl. There's even some evidence that I've seen of the pill-making machine made in China in Mexico. And if you ever watch some TV shows like border security in the USA, the customs would actually seize some of the precursors or even actual fentanyl in packages trying to get into the USA. So why do they keep denying it where the evidence is not from Western media, as they always put down, but from real videos from companies like National Geographic or Border Security, where you can see with your own eyes this drug is coming into the United States and it is coming from China. That's the fact. Why are you denying it? Some companies in China who do this illegal trade would actually make it like candy, like the picture you can see here. This is a candy or supposed candy called Nerds. It looks like Skittles, comes from China, basically to go to America. But these aren't Skittles, these aren't candy. This is the pills of fentanyl ready for the use for the drug abusers in the United States of America. And quite often, national news in the United States, Chinese national charged in massive fentanyl importation case. The fentanyl precursors were discovered in South Texas. So the precursors were smuggled in. Now, please note, the precursors for fentanyl is an actual legal drug trade. It's for painkillers, but it's used in a tiny, tiny amount for people suffering unbearable pain, like in cancer. But obviously, you can see quite often on videos related to the people who would use this as a cheaper source of their drug use compared to heroin. And some people on Twitter or on X would actually show you some quotations like this. A 1,500 kilogram bag of Chinese fentanyl sells for 1.5 million American dollars on the street. Here is the real opioid crisis. Fentanyl smuggling from China is killing thousands of Americans. And I would agree with this. It's like China denies a lot of things. I was watching one guy on YouTube. He's a foreigner who lives in China and would always support the CCP and would always denounce America. But this is a guy who would say, you need to have the boots on the ground to discover. So he is in China, he has the boots on the ground there, but I don't think he's actually been to the United States. So he's giving you a false narrative with that and only giving one side of the story. And these people have can range from 25-year-old South Africans to 62-year-old former British policemen who live in China. They're very happy. They married a Chinese girl or boy. They're teaching. They find the life better than the UK. Now, I have been out of the UK since 1989, and I find life in Southeast Asia more to my own preference. It is hot, it is sticky, it's summertime now, I got blue sky and 36 degrees, and it's March, compared to England where it may be about 16 or 17 degrees, and it's not a sunny kind of place. London is known for the rain. But regardless of that, that is my choice. And these are these people's choices, but they seem to be persuaded by the Communist Party of China related to this. Look at what happened at the beginning of June in 1989. The government would delete the history from this incident which happened, which was on BBC, CNN, and all the other news networks. I was in America at the time in 1989 and seeing this on CNN in Fort Lauderdale, I was based in at the time, was really shocking. But they deny it nowadays. It's gone out of history. And how they would depict the father of China, Mr. Mao, and how wonderful he was and the great leap forward and the Cultural Revolution, or the Great Leap Backwards and the Cultural Devolution, as some people would say, with that, and how many people unfortunately lost their lives due to malnutrition. It's not in the history books. It's not there. It's gone. And this is why many people would say Mao is a god, because there's the misinformation or no information about everything. It's only the part truth of it, or sometimes a part lie, and they manipulate in that way. So these people on YouTube, these foreigners who live in China, that we have no evidence that they get paid by the central government in China, for example, but it feels like they are, and because they're always quoting the CCP. There was one guy who actually said, I get all my information from Chinese government websites. But there's no transparency through this. They would only print what is suitable to print, and sometimes it's not going to be the whole truth. So how many people died in China during the COVID outbreak a couple of years ago? We don't know. People do. I'm sure there are some facts and figures about it, but they would reduce this number, which doesn't really make sense for the population of China. Example, there's 1.4 billion people in China, and the people who died with COVID-19 may be 1,500. Doesn't make sense at all with that one compared to other countries who do have better transparency and would tell you the truth related to this, or it feels more like the truth related to it. So this is the situation that we live in nowadays, that if you do use YouTube and you're interested in places like China, for example, there are many websites, applications, YouTubers, content creators who live in China. I've said that quite a few times today, who live in China, who would just say, this is how it is. And they would only show the good side of it. They would show the facade of China, like the modern infrastructure in Shenzhen, for example, but they would never go behind the scenes of this, where some of the old town where you can meet ladies of the night, or the trash is piling up behind the big buildings, something that they won't show. And this is the Communist Party sort of like propaganda for the West. And this is the thing, they can freely do this using a VPN on YouTube. But I can't go on WeChat and post this video there, or on Bilibili, which is the Chinese YouTube. It wouldn't be allowed because it's against the Chinese party. Freedom of speech, they say they have in China, but only freedom of speech as long as it's positive about the CCP. But you're not allowed the freedom of speech related to the negative side of the CCP. I know I'm waffling on a bit too much with this one, but you get my drift, and please do share this video, to share it with your friends, to get the word out there that don't take everything for granted on social media, especially the younger generation. It may be a professional looking kind of like YouTube channel in a studio, but the lies that they come out with. Now, my boots on the ground, 31 years in Asia, and these are my experiences, and I think I'm quite a logical kind of guy. These people sort of like, it's just propaganda. Thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.